tends to be a lot of bleeding in phosphorus. So if there's if there's going to be any bleeding, there's probably a lot of it. If there's going to be any diarrhea, there's probably going to be a lot of it. It's a lot of discharge like that. Tends to be worse around twilight. Hunger despite the fever, which is a little unusual. The thirst is unquenchable, not unlike Naturum muriaticum. For ice cold drinks, that's a big one. It's huge for phosphorus. So in an acute stage, you expect to see a desire for large quantities of cold drinks. And like I said before, the mental emotional picture, they desire company, they're affectionate, they're not the patient's that's gonna say just leave me alone. Okay, so now we're gonna kind of overlap on some remedies. That covers the whole topic of fever. Now we're gonna move into the topic of influenza, which obviously is going to overlap. So there's going to be a lot of overlap here. We're going to talk about some of the remedies again. Common remedy for influenza is gelsemium. Talked about being dull, droopy, dizzy, dumb. Often can be a summer flu with gradual onset, great fatigue, weakness. We talked about being chilly, lack of thirst, desire to be quiet. Dizziness, you can get vertigo starting in the occiput back here, maybe visual changes associated with that. They want to close their eyes, head feels heavy, eyes feels heavy, they want to just close their eyes and relax. Bryonia, again, desire to lie still, can be a dry, painful cough, everything's worse from motion. Thirst for cold, large amounts, infrequently. Tend to have dry mucous membranes, dry cough, cracked or bleeding lips, again from the dryness. Tend to be chilly, and has this desire to go home, to get out of the room where they're sick. Okay, the next one for, yes, question?
You prescribed Bryonia when he was having recurring nosebleed.
Uh-huh.
A couple years ago. Is
Right.
that associated with the dry membrane?
That could be, yeah, I mean, typically, right,
Yeah,
when the
it
membranes
worked
get
really
dry,
well.
then there's more chance of
He didn't have a cold, but
nosebleeds.
he was having that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I'm guessing it was much better if he was staying still and much worse if he was running around, which probably meant that he was having nosebleeds a lot. He's a pretty active kid. Okay, so the next one, Arsenicum album, again, anxious, especially about health and illness, restless, feels better for company, don't leave me alone, that fear of being left alone. Chilly with burning pain, better from warmth. Thirsty for small, frequent sips. GI symptoms, often like very common remedy for stomach flu. Diarrhea while vomiting, very common remedy for stomach flu. All symptoms worse around or after midnight, and exhaustion from the slightest exertion. So this weakness associated with the restlessness. Nux vomica, the next remedy very commonly indicated in influenza. Often caused by overwork, overindulgence, debauchery, so too much working, too much eating, too much drinking, too much use of stimulants, of coffee, of different drugs like that. Very sensitive patient, very sensitive, irritable, impatient, angry, snaps at you. When this person's angry, pissed off, you know it because they're letting you know. Sorry, TJ. They tend to be very sensitive to everything, to noise, to light, to odors, to perfumes, to insult, to impatience, people taking too long, people who are slow, they can't stand that. Especially sensitive to noise, even slight noise, get very irritable with that. Extremely chilly, worse from the least uncovering. They could be laying in bed, and just when they move, that movement between the air between their body and the sheet would cause a chill, would be uncomfortable. So really wants to be covered up. Extremely chilly, shivering, wants it the room probably couldn't be hot enough for them. Like the room could be 80, could be 85, they'd feel better. Digestive disturbance, nausea, indigestion, hangovers, that kind of thing. Desires warm food, warm drinks, irritable worse when questions, sleepless after 3 a.m. Nux vomica tends to be worse first thing in the morning and from about 3 to 5 a.m. That's when they would wake up, that's when they have their lightest sleep, that's when they would have the most symptoms. Also an urge to vomit or have a bowel movement but can't. So we call that an ineffectual urging. They want to urge, so that if there's an urge to vomit but you can't, then you do what we call retching. It's like the dry heaves. It's like you're trying to vomit or the body's doing it but nothing is coming out. Very common nux vomica, either in the acute or chronic stage. Okay, the next one is Eupatorium perfoliatum. This is the keynote of this one is the first line there, the bone pain. So it's like this real, when you have a fracture or bony pain, it's like a deep, boring pain. It's very sensitive to being touched. So even the eyeballs will be really sore. You touch the eyes, when you're sick and it's really sensitive. That's a keynote of Eupatorium. Chill, it's more of a chilly patient, especially in the morning. So similar to nux vomica in that regard. Nausea with vomiting, bilious, meaning like from bile, it might be green. Achy back, thirst for ice cold drinks, especially with the chill, which is kind of unusual. So that really differentiates it from nux vomica, which was also a sensitive, chilly patient, but this one is wanting ice cold drinks, even when they're chilly. Restless due to the pain, but no relief with the motion. Whereas arsenicum or aconitum might get a little temporary relief from the restlessness. Here with Eupatorium, you're not getting that relief. A lot of complaining and moaning and groaning with the pain. Aconitum, there's nothing really new there, so I'm going to skip that one. Baptisia is another one that's very common, indicated in flus. Rapid prostration, so rapid weakness, they become weak very quickly. A lot of myalgia, body aches, muscle aches, stupor, very tired, sluggish. And they can have some delirium, like delirium and fever, worse at night. Tends to have a high fever with infection, red face, looks drunk or drugged or confused. Tendency towards diarrhea and offensive discharges, so their breath is going to smell, their perspiration is going to smell, all their excretions and secretions will smell. Feels as if limbs are scattered in parts, kind of an unusual symptoms, but characteristic, and tends to be thirsty. So in contrast to gelsemium, which tends to be thirstless. So here's two remedies, look kind of weak and tired and dizzy and in stupor, but they're thirsty versus the thirstless gelsemium, so it's a way to differentiate.